Y'all, this is good. What's up, everybody? It's me, Erica, and we are down here, honey. We are down here for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, episode 4. Now, I skipped over episode 3. Episode 3 was continued in episode 4, at the beginning of episode 4, where Lisa was letting everybody know that her cases have been dismissed and her and Angie get into an argument. Bronwyn talks to her husband about getting along with the women. He doesn't think that he he's very no nonsense. He's an older man. I still have a Palm Pilot. I don't know if he was a creator of the Palm Pilot or one of the engineers who worked on the Palm Pilot, but he has something to do with the Palm Pilot. I still have a Palm Pilot. I have an old Palm Pilot and I have an old Blackberry. There's some pieces of electronics. I even have a Walkman, one of the yellow sports Sony Walkmans. You know, I worked at Circuit City, so I got me a Walkman. I've had that Walkman since. This is like Circuit City was one of my first jobs, and so I got a Walkman, um, a Sony Walkman. I don't have the earphones, but I do have the actual Walkman. It's yellow. It's a sport one, so I loved it. Oh my god, I wanted one so bad, and I finally got it. I was so happy. Anyways, yeah, he's a no nonsense type of dude, right? He doesn't seem like he minces words. Seems like he's very forth, like right, and it's not like there's no nonsense about Todd. That's his name. So that was like the last episode before this one. Um, I do not like Brittany. I think she is a pathetic, despicable woman. I do. Any woman who abandons and dishonors her children to be in a relationship with a man who mistreats her is a fucking fool. Sorry. I do not like that lady. And she has this darkness about her. It's the way, I don't know, it's the way she looks. It's something about her that I get like it's a dark energy around her. That's what I see. I don't particularly like the lady. And I don't like when I hear about a woman neglecting her children for men, I lose all respect for you. All respect for you. And she was having that conversation with Whitney, and it was literally going in one ear and out of the other. So I don't know. The same with Super Sin. Y'all neglecting these kids, thinking that like no matter his room could be full of shit, she's still neglecting him because he's still acting out. Children that are not neglected don't act out. Neglected children act out. That he can have a room full of every fucking video game, every fucking streaming equipment, all the everything. He can still feel neglected. He can still be neglected. And I did not know, girl, I did not know that Super Sense children were not in her wedding. Girl, that's some nasty work. But again, here we are. You are abandoning, neglecting your children. Just buying them stuff doesn't excuse the neglect. Doesn't mean that they're not being neglected. They need love. They need for their parents to be attuned to their personalities, locked in to your kid. But no, you abandon your children, neglect your children to be in relationships with men who mistreat you. And then you want your children to respect these people. For what? He don't respect you. What the fuck? I gotta respect him. He don't respect you. I gotta respect him and you let him disrespect you, drag you out of cars on the highway and shit. Jared Osmond talking to every fucking body who will say hello to him in the DMs, and you still messing around with him. We're trying to get back to getting engaged, girl. He has you like this on a string, and you're a fucking idiot. And the whole time you're neglecting your daughter. I do not like Brittany. I was about to call her Brandy. Brittany. At the luncheon, they come. It like starts where they left off. Um, she's trying to say that you know um, her legal troubles are being dismissed. She'll probably get sued again. We're just talking. I'm going over these synopsis notes because I didn't take any notes. Um, Lisa goes to Angie and she starts talking about her hair salon. Angie starts talking about Wolf Cosmetics or Wolf Skincare, which is Lisa's son. She called it a sea line, and it's at Walmart. Girl, when she packed that stuff up and it had dust on top of it, she was like, I like Angie K. Now I do like Angie K. I out of the cast, I like Angie K first. I like Mary. I feel like Mary's been drinking to cope with what's going on with her son. Even in her tagline is something about I'm just eating and drinking and being merry. But her face is holding a lot of water. And typically, when you see someone's face holding a lot of water, it might be attributed, amongst other things, to consuming alcohol because you retain water and it holds in your face. I was looking at Allen Iverson, Bobby Brown. You could see all those people. When they stop drinking, their face goes all the way down. Your face be like puffy up here. Go look at Mary. She looks like she's been drinking to cope with what's going on with Robert. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying to cope what's going on with Robert because I feel like that's the only stressor right now in her life. And that would be, somebody turning to alcohol to kind of, ease those stressors of dealing with the son who is addicted to opioids. I don't know what's going on with Robert. I don't know what he's doing. I hope he's not doing fentanyl. I really hope he's not on no fentanyl doing that shit because he could die. Like that shit is no joke. That fentanyl is no joke, bro. None at all. So when I look at Mary, I see somebody who's drinking. Does anybody else see that? I just look at her face and it's just very puffy. And I've learned that that comes from, amongst, it could be other things, but water retention from consuming a lot of alcohol. Anyways, um, they go back and forth. Angie and Lisa are going back and forth, shading each other, going low, going lower. Heather steps in and Heather's like, y'all don't have to go low. Y'all don't have to do this to each other. We are friends because we have a good time with each other. This is not a good time. Heather is really good at that. Heather is really good at kind of being the anchor, but not in the front. Like she kind of anchors the back, maybe. She comes in with these speeches that are just so good. Like, and it kind of like, she's right. She's right. We have a good time together. We should not be throwing jabs this low. Angie said that Lisa's son's shit, his business is Sea Line and it's in Walmart. Girl, that's a dig. That wasn't a dig. Yes, it was, Angie K. You're gonna have to stand in your shit, girl. Whitney, Whitney to me is like a Cynthia Bailey. But Whitney does a lot of, she's not afraid of confrontation, which I can appreciate about Whitney. She doesn't back down. That's the one thing I can appreciate Whitney. But that voice, she gets on my nerves sometimes. But I appreciate her conversation with Brittany in that little solarium they were in. I don't know where they went. It was a bunch of plants and shit. Um, when Whitney had gotten up from the table because she was going back and forth with Lisa, like she was over the table like this, and she just ended up walking away. Lisa ends up crying. They tell Lisa that she's not vulnerable with them. She's not vulnerable. She doesn't share. Lisa's like, okay, this is me being vulnerable. She starts crying. She tells Angie she loves her. Like, even though we fight hard, they do fight like siblings. They do fight like siblings where y'all be going back and forth, like tearing each other to shreds, and then y'all be cool in a couple of days, right? Some siblings operate like that. But they all agree that Lisa is not vulnerable, that she doesn't share a lot. I feel like Lisa does share. I don't know why. Y'all tell me where you feel like Lisa doesn't share. But I do feel like Lisa shares. I feel like we know a lot about Lisa's life, her son going off to be a missionary. Like she shared that. That's like really personal stuff. She shared that with us. One thing she hasn't shared with us is she mentions it every now and again, how she was raised, but we haven't really delved into how Lisa was raised. Now, I don't know if we need to meet Lisa's mother. Bronwyn's mother, bitch, you gotta get the fuck out my shit now. Ah, girl, that lady is a monster. Oh, girl. Ooh. I was like, get this lady off my screen before I tear my TV off the wall. Girl, that lady triggered me. When I tell you that lady triggered me, oh, we'll get to it. So they're still at the little luncheon or whatever. Everybody finally, gives a toast, and they finally, you think that they're in a good space. You think they left on a good note, but they don't. We'll get to that. Mary, she goes and visits her church. They had renovated the church. There were still some things that needed. She was spotting everything. She was walking through the church. She was like, "That needs to be done. Were all these seats clean?" He was like, "Some of them were." Why were some of them? Why weren't all of them done? That's what I want to know. But anyways, he says some of them are clean. She says, him being a contractor and him being family, he's really milking it, right? He's, I guess, not moving as fast as if it were a job for someone else. She talks about the relationship that she had with her mother when her grandmother died. I don't understand. There's a part of that story that I don't understand, where Mary was like, why would she think that all this would go to her? Right. So that was the tension between Mary and her mom. When the grandmother died, she gave her husband and her church to Mary. Right. And then Mary ended up having a baby from this man, which is still a little weird, but whatever. He was already a young man when he married the grandmother. He was a young man, so he was probably around Mary's age, which again is something that is a little weird, that grandmother had a young husband like that. And so Mary says, and she has said it before. Why would my mom think that her mom would give her this church? So I don't know. There's a gap for me in that story. Y'all let me know if you know what the gap is, because why did her mom think, maybe because she's just next in line, next of kin, and I skipped over you and gave it to your daughter, so now you have problems with your daughter. Okay. And then so they're kind of crying, they're talking about they're getting emotional. They sit down in the pew, and Mary starts talking about Robert and how smart he is. So they start talking about Robert, and then I think he's her cousin. Is he her cousin? I think he's her cousin. And he starts crying. She was like, "Are you crying?" He was like, "Yeah, because Robert is really smart. He's really smart." And it's so crazy because really smart people get addicted to things. You know what I'm saying? As smart as they are, they're not as smart as their bodies. Does that make sense? Like, your body becomes, we know how chemical dependency works, right? So you're introducing something to your body, and it makes you feel a certain kind of way, and you keep introducing it to your body becomes acclimated to it. So then you need more of it. And then now your brain and your body are working together. That's why alcoholism and drug addiction is a mental illness, because your body starts responding, and then your brain is now functioning on your body being dependent, right, on this chemical. And now your brain is telling you, oh, you need more of this, right? Your body needs more of this. So now you're going to get more of the alcohol, the drugs, the shopping, the sex, whatever it is that you're addicted to. But very smart people become addicted all the time, all the time. And it's like, that's why you don't touch it. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. I don't even want to try no shit that I feel like people, like, you try something and then like forever you're trying to chase that first high. I'm not touching none of that shit. I'm not gonna be chasing nothing. I'm not gonna be buying nothing. I'm not gonna be selling nothing, trying to get it. I'm not gonna be doing none of that shit. Hold on, I'll be right back. Girl, I already started. I was wearing into Bronwyn's mother and looked up and I wasn't recording. What I was saying, they, instead of calling her Muzzy, they need to call her Muzzle so she could shut the fuck up. Because I think that conversation that Bronwyn had with her mother, and her mother suggesting, okay, this is where I am with Bronwyn. She mentions to her mom, my daughter, her daughter now is the age she was when she got pregnant with her. I feel that Bronwyn is creating a cycle where, to me, I feel like if you wanted to break the cycle of being a young mother, teenage mother. I think her daughter's 18. Is she 18 or 17? Because her daughter, like her daughter and the boyfriend, the boyfriend lives there. I'm all for being progressive and liberated and things like that, but I think that's a little too far. Now, um, especially as young as they are. But they're driving age, they're driving around and stuff like that. And it sounds like they said they're going bowling, but it does sound like they were going to have some, quiet time alone. They didn't look like they were dressed for bowling. I don't know how you have to dress for bowling, but the mom, Bronwyn and her mom were like, girl, I know y'all not going bowling. We're not that dumb. So they sit down and they start talking, and her mother basically says that wouldn't happen in her home. This dynamic that you have your daughter's boyfriend living with y'all, that would not happen in our home. So Bronwyn, that's what I was like, well, why don't you say, bitch, all the parameters and restrictions and boundaries that you had, and I was still fucking. Every aspect of my life, they told me, don't have premarital sex, don't do this, don't do that, and I was still doing it. Y'all didn't keep me from doing that.
I like that, but it's parenting that I've never seen work.
Did the way you parented me work? Because you did not want me having sex. And newsflash, I had a baby by myself. Stop me from doing it. So you were trying to make sure I wasn't having sex. And guess what? It was happening no matter what.
I was still able to be alone long enough with a boy to get pregnant. Okay. So whatever rules that y'all had in place did not matter. They don't matter. They didn't matter, and they didn't keep her from becoming pregnant. So probably her mom feels shame. I think she said her father worked in the church. They're Mormons. Father worked in the church, and it was embarrassing. And then the mother says, well, I was a daycare. Well, I had to work. I just had a baby, so I'm working. You see yourself not as a woman supporting her daughter, but as a daycare. And so I thought that was mean. I thought that was mean of her mother. And then it was something else she said. I was a daycare. She says, I was working. And then she goes, well, you didn't want to put the child in foster care. And then she mentioned something about adoption. And then Bronwyn was like, what are you talking about?
Gwen's just dropped in my daycare,
I was at work.
What would have happened if I didn't take her? You would have been somewhere else. We didn't want her to go into foster care.
I would have worked a second job and paid for something. Let's not imply that I was going to let Gwen go to foster care money. That's so dark.
No, you never wanted her to be adopted. It was always, I'm keeping her.
As if her mother thought about, if I don't help Bronwyn, she's going to have to give this baby up for adoption or have this child be fostered in some way. And I just thought that was so mean. Like, why would you even suggest that when that wasn't even an option? I was never going to give my daughter up for adoption. I was never going to put my daughter into foster care. Why would you say that? And then like she's telling her mom, like, this is getting kind of dark. Her mom was just looking at her like. Then Bronwyn shares this story that her sisters were pregnant at the same time, and they went to Baby Gap. They went somewhere to shop, and her mother was buying clothes for her sister's baby. And then the salesperson in the store was like, noticed that Bronwyn was pregnant, and Bronwyn was like, oh yeah. She was like, oh, I'm sorry, she was like, yeah, I am pregnant. And she was like, oh, so is all this stuff, you're getting stuff for your sister, is there any stuff going to be getting, you're going to buy anything for the new baby, for Bronwyn's baby? The mother said no. And here we are with a person maintaining a contract that they feel they're obligated to keep just because this person is a parent. And I don't know when we're going to put two and two together that says when we allow even our parents to get away with neglecting us, mistreating us, but then feeling like we have to maintain a contract with them, that that is going to show up in every aspect of your life, where you are maintaining contracts out of some unwarranted obligation. Out the way that Bronwyn's mother suggested that the child was going to be put into foster care, were based on the way that Bronwyn reacted, that doesn't seem to have ever been an option. And it was making Bron, you could see Bronwyn, her entire body. She would like go back and look at the way that Bronwyn was moving in her, like she was so uncomfortable. And it's unfortunate that she feels like she has to maintain a relationship with this lady who did not support her when she was pregnant. I agree with the mother. I wouldn't allow the daughter to have her boyfriend living with her. I think if you wanted to skip over possibly creating a generational cycle, you would have waited. You were like, okay, this is the time where I got pregnant. I'm going to protect my daughter during this time to make sure we skip over that and we can kind of break that cycle, right? I'm still going to allow her. I want her to be open with me. I want her to be communicative with me in the way that she's navigating this relationship. I want her to feel that I'm someone she can come to. You as a mother were not someone I felt that I can come to in my situation. I want to create a space where if my daughter does get pregnant, she doesn't feel shame or feel bad because, and not come to me, right? I think Bronwyn's mom was so mean and rude. And it's that kind of meanness and rudeness that is very subtle. Like she wasn't yelling at her. She was just what she was saying, like literally making the suggestion that Bronwyn was going to give her child up for adoption. But her mom is thinking, if I didn't help you, if I wasn't the daycare, a daycare, you're referring to my child. You watched your grandchild and you're referring to you watching her and helping me be my village and my tribe. You describe that as daycare? Nope. I thought that was really mean of her mom. I thought it was really mean of her mom. I thought her mom was incredibly rude. It was just a really bad look. And I feel sorry for people in relationships with parents that are like that, because a lot of people feel like they have to maintain those contracts with those people. Whitney and Brittany go to the little solarium. It's like a little, I don't know, if it's like a little garden place where they have plants and stuff like that. They had these garden walls in there. Whitney was like, I want a garden wall. Oh, Whitney is getting her pole put back up. I like her and oh boys, like the way that they interact with her. I have never seen him. Now y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I think is his name Brian. I don't remember Whitney's husband's name. What is his name? I can't remember. But he lost his job based on some shit they did. Remember when they were on in the middle of the floor acting like they was doing BDSM and had chocolate and shit, all the chocolate syrup and shit all over the floor. I think it was chocolate syrup. That nigga got fired from his job for that. So this is their job. But I like the way that they interact with each other. Um, he seems supportive, and we could see that he has been supportive. Where they Whitney says that they use their money to fund their business, and the business failed, and that's what happens. And not all of your businesses are going to succeed, right? You got to keep trying. You're an entrepreneur. You got to keep trying. Find something else. But to me, I always feel like if you're an entrepreneur, if it wouldn't make sense for me to be down here selling weave. Right. You'd be like, what the fuck? Why are you selling bundles, Erica? That's not something I'm passionate about. Coffee, reefer, little jewelry and shit like that. That's the shit that I like. Scarves and shit like that. The little things, jewelry, nails. If I'm down here and I come down here and start selling nails to y'all, then you'll be like, okay, that makes sense. That's something that she's into. If I come down here and sell coffee to y'all, yeah, she drink coffee all the time. If I'm coming down here and I'm offering CBD products, Delta 9 products, here's a link, go. That makes sense, right? I feel like when you start to sell things like Marlo with her wigs. Remember Marlo had a wig line? For what? You don't sell wigs. It makes sense for you to be more into the street fashion or the fashion dealing with that because you do fashion so well. That makes more sense than you selling wigs when your wigs be looking the way that they do. Malo. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, you should delve into things that actually interest you and not do things just to chase money because that's unsustainable and you're not going to like it, right? If I was down here selling, I don't know. I have my glasses, my coffee, my reefer. Everything falls in line with who I am. So it makes sense that, oh, she has a link to her glasses. She has a link to her little bracelets and stuff. She has a link to the coffee that she drinks. She has a link to the CBD products that she uses. That makes more sense, right? Than to be selling something that you really don't care about. Jewelry, I don't know. I don't know if that's Whitney's thing necessarily. What is Whitney into? I don't know. Um, Maybe she should get into pole dancing. Maybe she should become a pole dancing instructor and start having classes and stuff like that. Get you a little studio. I'm sure you and your husband could find a space, maybe in the same parking lot as Beauty Lab. Is that what Heather's business is called? Heather has a thriving, functional business that really doesn't, she don't even really need to be there, right? Like Marie said about Hamilton Medical. Anyways, Whitney and Brittany are in there talking, and she is talking about moving or something like that. She's doing something in her house, renovating or something, redecorating. And she goes, Jared is helping me. Jared Osmond. You know, it's 1,000 Osmonds, right? They're Mormons, so it's 1,000 of them. Jared Osmond, nice, attractive man, kind of reminds you, gives you the mind of Alan Thicke. Okay, kind of that kind of flavor he gives you. You know, square head, tall, chiseled chin. You know what I'm saying? Ken doll type of energy. He's hopping into everybody's DMs, girl. Everybody. He talks to everybody. And she's just like a fucking donkey trying to get a carrot on a string. And he's just like this with the carrot. They done broke up. They were engaged and then broke up. She said, Whitney says, so what's going on with y'all? Like, what are you doing? Well, we're trying to figure out how to get back to being engaged. Girl, what? She says she's having problems with her daughter. The daughter is asking her not to date for a while. Can you just focus on your kids for a little while? But unfortunately, in Mormonism, they have a rule that the women cannot get into heaven without being married. So she's operating under a programming, right, that is causing her to neglect her children in an effort to get into heaven. I feel like neglecting your bloodline is probably worse than not being married. Your children, they came from, that's why I was talking to my son. I was like mad when I watched this scene with Whitney. Like, Whitney literally put her hands on Brittany's shoulders, like, girl, the way that you're responding to me telling you give your daughter a chance, your daughter is worth you kind of taking a break from being in a relationship with this man who is like leading you on. You look like a blithering idiot, a pathetic blithering idiot, a pathetic excuse for a woman, just pathetic. I have no respect for that lady. She might have her funny moments and her announcements she has to make, but neglecting your children for a man and then not even understanding, like, literally, she was over there ironically, rubbing a cactus, a prickly cactus, while Whitney is explaining to her, your daughter is worth it. Isn't your daughter worth you taking a break to focus on your children? She's like, she was like, the way that you're responding it makes me think another way. She was like, I'm estranged from my mom, but there are times that in my life I wish I had my mother to talk to. I want my mother to be there to talk to, but I'm estranged. This is what Whitney is saying, right? I know what it's like. I know how crucial mother-daughter relationships are. No, even mother and sons. You look at Super Scent over there with her son and dealing with neglecting her son, even though she has bought him everything he wants, stuff he doesn't deserve to her admission. She still neglected herself and abandoned herself to be in a relationship with a man who is physically abusive to her, and her children have seen it. And now you want me to respect this man? And you don't even respect yourself, and you want me to respect the man who has harmed you and you. And you have disrespected yourself by allowing a man who has mistreated you, emotionally abused you, is leading you on, has you looking like an idiot out here because he's still talking to other women. And you'd rather hold on to that than to take a break for 30 days and tend to your children. You are a piece of shit. I don't fuck with no broads like that. Get your funky ass out of my face, bitch. Whitney literally grabbed her shoulders and was like, I'm talking to you, and the way that you're responding has me feeling a certain way. Like, I don't have respect for that. I cannot respect that. I'm sorry. I can't. I have no respect for a woman who neglects her children for a man, especially an abusive man. Like, I could see if Brittany was like going on dates. I'm dating, and I'm not like paying attention to my kids. I could see her. Not that it's excusable, but I could see her being like, oh, I'm trying to find a man. I'm trying to get into heaven. So I'm dating. You're neglecting your kids. No, you're neglecting your kids for a man who mistreats you and disrespects you. So not only are you neglecting your daughters are witnessing you being mistreated by a man. What do you think they're going to absorb? What do you think they're going to absorb? Either they're going to completely reject that dynamic and completely turn away from you and think you're a fucking idiot and have zero respect for you. And once they're able to survive without you, you will never see them again. You neglected me for this man who you still not married to. You've wasted all this time and not turned towards me to give me the love, affection, and consideration that I need as a developing young woman. And you neglected me to be with a man, and you still not married with him, and you've lost all this time. Fuck you, lady. You pathetic piece of shit. That's how I feel about Britney. There's literally no way that you can justify neglecting your kids to be in a relationship with a person. Not from my point of view. There's no excuse for it. None at all. None at all. Lisa and Bronwyn go sit down to have a conversation about their relationship and how they really care about each other. And she really feels a certain way about the family dynamics going on with her daughter's father because she knows their family and things like that. They promised each other that they would stop and that they like kind of called a truce and they would come to each other from now on. They agree to keep family off limits. Okay. Um, and then Angie shares with Meredith that, who was it with Meredith? She went out with Meredith. They went to have some coffee and tea. And she told Meredith that when her and Angie were going through it, Angie is telling Meredith this. I'm trying to remember because I didn't take notes. She's trying to tell Meredith that when they were in their conflict, Lisa contacted Angie and told Angie to look these people up, keep them in your back pocket. So when you're in conflict with Meredith, you can use that as ammunition. Meredith was like, really? She was like, no, for real. She was like, and she said, I'm going to have to go back and talk to her about this. She was like, you can go back and talk to her about it because that's exactly what she said. Why do I believe that? Because remember, we got that hot mic moment when she was calling her a whore and said she sleeps with everybody in New York and she was a piece of shit and stuff like that. Does Meredith not remember that? Girl, do you not remember? Are you so dolled up? Meredith be acting like she's high as fuck. I don't know if she be taking an edible before the scenes. I don't know what be going on, but she be so calm and shit. I'll be like, girl, what is going on with you? She just be like, yeah, I'm going to have to talk to her. Well, that really disturbs me. I'm going to have to talk to her about that. Girl, what? Can we get a little bit more out of you? I'll be thinking Meredith is fucked up. Like, she either be on some type of Xanax or edible or something, but she's really calm. Like she's always just super duper calm and like really soft. Rarely does she yell, but when she does yell, right? Remember when she was yelling at Brittany for recording their conversation? That bitch is crazy. So Angie lets Meredith or Heather, it was one of them. She lets them know. The scene with Mary and Heather at the beginning was really cute. When Heather looked directly into the camera, I love when they break the fourth wall like that. Because they were talking about, I forgot what they were talking about. Something smelling. Oh, that when they said what you taste and smell is like the same thing. That's why when somebody passes gas, that you want to be like, close your mouth because you don't want to taste it. And then Heather looked into the camera like, what? And Mary was cracking up. I like stuff like that. The little short scenes that they show, I love when they do that. Okay, so anyway, so Angie shares with either Meredith, she shares with somebody, I can't remember who it was, y'all remind me, but she shares that Lisa, oh, she was doing Heather's hair. She was doing Heather's hair because she was, she was a cosmetologist and she let her license expire. The way that marriage licenses should expire after a certain amount of time, her cosmetology license expired. So she's, I guess, trying to get some hours so she can get it renewed or whatever. So she's doing Heather's hair and letting Heather know that Lisa contacted her and told her that somebody was going to come to the salon to get the rest of her son's product. She was like, I came up here to pick up the, what was it called? Wolf? What is it called? Wolf something. Fresh Wolf. She was like, I came to pick up the product of Fresh Wolf because Angie was making fun of his product. So Lisa, after they mended everything, she sent her assistant to Angie's salon to get the Fresh Wolf off of the product, off of the shelves. She don't want it even in her store. And then she sent her $600 or something like that for the product. Like she bought the product back, I guess. And so Angie, when she goes down to, she was like, okay, I'll go get it. So she goes, she's telling Heather, but they're showing her do it, right? She goes down into the room to get a box and to get all the Fresh Wolf stuff. And as she picked up one of the things, she goes, and then Lisa responds with her space being dusty. And if she wanted her to send over a cleaning crew, she can help by sending a cleaning crew over, because when she got the product back, it had dust. And she was like, it had dust on it because it was taken off the shelves and put into the back room. They going back and forth on text message after that restaurant scene where they gave each other cheers and they said they were going to, work on loving each other and being and not going down low. But then Meredith was like, when she was telling Meredith about it, Meredith was like, well, you're going to have to give her some grace because, when you come for somebody's kids, you don't know what they're going to do, right? You don't know what the response is going to be. So you got to give her a little bit more grace. And she was like, I do find it funny because when you and I were having conflict, she told me to look up stuff on you so that I would have it as ammunition. And so Meredith said she's going to talk to Lisa about that. She was like, talk to her about it because everything she said it verbatim. I was like, this is crazy. Let's see. I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, I think that was the end of the episode. Yeah, the scene with Bronwyn and her mom, that really triggered me. I didn't like that because I'm all for cutting people. Virgos, they'd be like, girl, cut it out. Get it out of here. What is it? Cut it out. Get it out of here. You don't have to deal with no mess like that. And that's how I feel. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't deal with her as the mother, as the grandmother, just listening to her. And if I was the granddaughter and I went back and I heard my grandmother call herself a daycare for watching me and then suggest that my mother was going to put me up for adoption or into foster care, like this is on TV. So her daughter is going to see this. And how dare you say that? I did not like that. Brittany, I do not like. I don't like neglectful. If you neglecting your children because you have some mental health issues, you have some, some physical health issues, and there's a a sense of neglect where you can't fully focus on your children because you're focusing on your health or whatever's going on with you. But to not be focused and attuned to your children because of a man, no blood relation. When I tell you, when I saw that, I was cussing. My son was like, "Why are you watching this as if it's making you so mad?" And I was like, "No, because if you listen to her, she is neglecting her children to be in relationship with a man. How would you feel if I neglected you to be in a relationship with a man?" He was like, "I wouldn't like it." No, no kid likes that. And I came out your pussy, bitch. And you neglected me for this dude. He don't have no relation to you. Doesn't give a fuck about you. And you're neglecting him, neglecting me for him? Girl, I don't have no respect. And once I no longer depend on you for my survival, you will never see me again. You, oh, at least you got into heaven, girl. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This was episode 4. We're on season 6. This one was called Petty Little Liars. So y'all let me know what you think of it. Let's get down in the comments. Take care of each other. Peace.